This is 3,600 horsepower of absolute diesel fury. If I was watching this live, I would have been sweating through my shirt while murmuring a small prayer for the fabricator who built these. Like, that's not glowing cherry red. That's 3.5 degrees away from being a puddle of liquid metal on the ground. Now I'm going to show you this next pass because the engine ran away on them, and it does a good job showing what kind of person it takes to pilot a death trap like this down the road. Hey, I'm John, welcome back to the shop, and 6 years ago I built the headers you just saw being abused and exploited. So these headers were made from 1 5/8" 321 stainless steel tubing, and on the customer's request they were made perfectly equal length using some cool manifold building Lego that I 3D printed. Obviously the exhaust temperature was completely out of control here. The customer stated he's starting to burn up exhaust valves, which is a strong indicator that the diameter of the headers is too small. So there's two major challenges with this job. First, with how close the collector is to the head flange, it's going to be a challenge to fit 2-inch runners into the space that we have available. Especially since we don't have the chassis here, we're just working on the engine by itself. I have photos to help me, but it's always a feel-good thing to know exactly what's going to be around the headers that you're building and what space you can use. The second challenge is that this engine needs to be back in my customer's hands in exactly 3 weeks. That might seem like a lot of time, but it actually isn't. Things are not as available in Canada as they are in the USA, so we'll likely be waiting 10 days for material to arrive, and we'll be at the mercy of the types of bends that we're able to acquire in the time that we have. Rush work is my specialty here, so I'm not too worried about it, so let's go get into it. The first thing I'm going to do is manufacture all of the parts that I need for this build while I'm waiting for the bends to show up. This application is too extreme for V-band connections in the Y-pipe. I learned this the hard way the first time around building these. There's so much pressure in this system that it expands the clamps right off of the V-bands. So I designed a set of taper fit flanges that have a 15-degree taper in them, and they're held together with 3 10mm fasteners so it can't at all open up under pressure. I'm making these from 5-inch 304 stainless steel round bar, and I'm making just one at a time and parting them off on the lathe. These cutouts are just in case the tapers are locked together after this thing gets a hot supper, so you'll be able to easily tap these apart. I'm not sure if it's needed, but I figured why not. I'm using this valve lapping compound to lap in the tapers of these flanges. Again, I'm not totally sure if this is necessary, but I wanted to just be absolutely sure that these were going to seal up perfectly first time around. The last part I needed to manufacture were the head flanges. These weren't available from the engine manufacturer, so they kindly sent me the DXF file. I laser cut these from 3/4 inch 304 stainless steel and then handed them off to my friend Ben, who faced them and machined the 2-inch ports into each runner. These bends and reducing cones I'm using on the collector are coming from Ace Race Parts. I'll, as usual, leave a link to them in the description.
You know, I was just sitting here having a think, and what I realized is that you are not subscribed to me and you probably haven't liked this video yet. I'd really appreciate it if you could do one of those two things. And also, don't forget to either leave us a super thanks or buy us a coffee, because we're really dang thirsty here.
So now I have these components all built and ready to go. We're still waiting on material to arrive, so I'm going to start modifying the Y-pipe so we can get these collectors mounted. Anytime that you have to cut the head of a fastener to fit inside or fit past a pipe, you're doing it wrong. Something's wrong. Don't do it that way. This is totally seized in place, and the thing that I love doing here is making things really easy to assemble. A truck like this will come apart all the time. I think some of what customers will appreciate and will also pay for is having something that's easy to assemble that saves them time. I can already see the comments rolling in about me welding without gloves. I am not welding without gloves here. I am tacking without gloves. There's definitely a difference there. I do not take the time to slip gloves on when I just have to do a few tacks. It's completely okay. Okay, off camera, I welded up the Y pipe, and because I know that this existing tube was 321 stainless, and the flange I made is 304, I used a 347 rod to weld that together. Quite the maneuver we got to make here. Pretty much have to go up. I think that's the plan here. Up and around. I was kind of wondering if they should all start flaring out this one direction. Out and then in, maybe that's the way to go. Give me actual space to do this.
Many unbearable hours later.
Well, it's been a couple days, and because of my unfailing optimism, I always forget how much I hate building headers and how much work it actually is once you get into it. So basically, Leandra was here filming me when I had just started figuring it out. The hardest thing to do on a set of headers is making the first runner, especially on a tight set of headers like this. That kind of dictates where everything else will go. So it just was not something I wanted to get on film. You don't want to see me that angry. Okay, so I just pulled out the #1 runner here. I don't want to touch the rest because it'll collapse like a set of dominoes the second I touch it, but this is a formed collector, so all of these tubes just need to make it inside of here. Their lengths are a little bit off, they're a little bit crooked right now, but we're gonna fix all that up when it comes time to get these welded and actually place these into the collector and then weld our star onto the inside. So things I'm thinking about when it comes time to build a set of headers like this. One of them is space. We can only build the header where there's room to put this back in the truck. In this situation, it's not that big of a deal. Typically, I can't build headers without having everything accounted for where it's gonna be, in the chassis. This is a little different. I know there's a lot of space up here, but there's not a lot of space down here. Another thing that I account for here is that the collector is actually very close to the flange and it's set just a little ways back. That actually makes it quite hard to get, number one runner here into the collector with it being a reasonable length. So everything's got to come back and go in. One problem that presents is that these fasteners can get in the way. So over here on the quote-unquote passenger side of the engine, the fasteners are cambered to the left. So they're all on an angle like this. It's all the same here. So that was actually really easy. It was in our advantage. As they sweep back, you have access to the fastener here. Now a couple of them get kind of tight, but I do have straight through access to get to almost all of them. So I know that this side works out well. And of course, another challenge of building headers is that the aesthetic side of it is that we'll want this to be the same left and right. I think that's fair. Also, same performance left and right. So if we go to the other side, I'm going to show you something. So on this side, you can see that the fasteners actually camber the other way. So kind of annoying for building a set of headers like this. So they are cambered in the direction that all of our bends are going to pass right over. So it makes it really hard to get a tool in there and get them undone. I want them to be the exact same left and right, but on the right side here, we did have to modify it up just a little bit and to look the same, but allow access for the tool. That's just one of the things that really takes some time to get your head around. Most of the building on this is actually really easy It's just accounting for all of the variables that makes this a hard job. So obviously we need to weld all these runners, weld the collector, get them all incorporated. That's what's next. Before I break it down, I just need to mark off where we're going to put our EGT bungs. So the customer has asked me to put these in a similar location where possible. And that's no problem on these outside runners, but on these inside runners, there's just no way to get them where they used to be. So we're going to go in from the bottom. Okay, we've got our bung holes marked, and now that that's done, we can pull the runners out and get them welded. 100% of what we're welding here is stainless steel, so we are back purging everything. Towel. Oh, baby. So nice. Okay, these here are our bung holes, and they are 1/8 inch bung holes, and they are EGT sensor probe bung holes. So they'll go into the runners and hold a tiny little temperature sensor in the perfect place, and that aids in their tuning. So we're going to add one of these to each one of the runners on our headers. I've got the holes drilled for the EGT bungs. I want to tack them in place on the engine just so I can get the exact orientation perfect. Basically putting that in for goodsies. Let's do it. I'm just going to temporarily weld this piece in place to the two pipes, because I need to pull this flange off and weld those without welding them to the collector first. So because of how tight the clearance is for me to get the torch to weld these runners to the head flange, I'm just machining up a set of these fasteners, and they're as low profile as possible. They're going to let me walk right by with the torch. I like to start with welding the EGT bungs in an application like this before I would move to the head flange. The reason for that is with the purge going on inside and the slight gap underneath the EGT bung to the radius of the pipe, you can get a bit of a weird vortex that starts happening, and basically it'll blow your argon away and just ruin your day when you're making the head flange pass. So I typically like to start with the bungs and work my way down from there. Okay, I just want to show you guys my mistake here. So all of these runners had quite a bit of extra length inside the collector, which I would trim later. This one was close. I mean, I had it where I wanted it, but it was close. And after welding these joints, plus the collector, it's coming up almost, I mean, that's almost 3/8 of an inch short. Occasionally when I push the purge plugs into each end of these and I give them a little tap with my block, sometimes when it's not tacked well enough, I can move the position ever so slightly. I'm not sure exactly what happened here, but at least it's an easy fix. What I'm going to do is cut this back about 1.5 inches or 2 inches, right about there, and then I will just add a new piece at the proper length. It's really not a big deal. It was nice to find it before I was doing a final assembly. Great. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, so now that everything is solid and welded together, I just need to put them together back on the engine and mark off the runners. I'm going to trim these so they fit perfectly into the collector. And now let's talk about the collector, because I'm really not happy with it. Personally, I wasn't a big fan of these formed collectors from stainlessheaders.com. I have bought quality products from them in the past, but these were just not formed tight enough. They had huge gaps. I was just not a big fan. Here's a link to a friend on Instagram, Shearer Fab, and he makes absolutely fantastic billet collectors. I didn't know these were available until after I built these, so check these out. So if anybody watching up until now is wondering how I was going to seal the inside of these collectors, with all of the tubes being welded in place and then only really having space to weld the collector on the outside, well, this star is how you do it. You weld this star to the inside, and that allows you to just make a pass on the outside that connects it all together and seals this whole thing up. Honestly, it kind of blew my mind when I saw this for the first time, because I was always wondering how this was done.
Oh yeah, these things are looking fantastic. They're also looking pretty close to being done, which is great. So there's one important thing to do left other than get some sexy glam shots next to the old ones, and that is sanding these things flat.
So even though this wasn't a tutorial, if you are good with your hands, you like fabricating, building headers for people is a great way to bring in fairly large amounts of income. And it is an awesome job that not a lot of other people can do. And even more of a bonus, most people are scared of even doing this, even touching tubes. So definitely, if you have any questions whatsoever about this process here, I'd love to help you out with it. So leave a comment down below. Anyways, thanks so much for checking this out. It's been a pleasure, and I'll certainly see you on the next one. I could do it better.
It's okay, that's all I needed.
It's all right. I know the guy who made it. He can just make another one. That 2-inch I was just holding actually is the secret sauce. The Lord has provided. I feel confident that tubes will make it to each end of this, but I have no clue at all until it's done. Okay, I'll just say it again and hopefully it'll be coherent. On the other side, oh my gosh. Oh, okay, don't get that on camera.
Okay, I'm ready. Tell me about your bunghole.
Should I say bungholes? Bunghole. Oh, they are called a bunghole. Oh yeah, that's why you say it like it's saying something funny, but it's actually just the name. It's all right, Leandra. I'll take care of these shots for you. Thanks. All right, that's it. Our 2-inch header upgrade is done. That was a lot of fun. I keep saying it's a lot of fun when I'm about to talk about how shit it is to build headers. It's a coffee. We're busy pushing out.
Oh no, pushing out content.
Really prefer not to yell today.
So what are you gonna do?
Struggle until it's done.